Harry's life, it was he who was the culprit. Hello, and a very warm welcome to the new version of Kate Middleton and the Queen News Channel. As the title of this video states, Harry has done this all by himself. At his age, he should know right from wrong by now. He's also perfectly aware of when he lies, and he knows what kind of reaction people will have. He always seemed happy, a bit of a goofball, always up for a laugh and a joke. He was a fan of partying hard, he liked to get drunk, and he seemed to genuinely care about family and others. We excuse the occasional bad behavior because that was just Harry. According to a source, since he's gotten married, we're seeing a whole new side. He's showing that he's a nasty, vile, disloyal, money-hungry twat. He also shows some deep jealousy towards his brother. It would be easy to just blame Meghan, especially when she shows those same traits, but really, she just gives him the courage to no longer hide them. I think this is the real Harry. He's no longer restrained by the palace and its workings. Just like a spoiled little child, he's more than happy to throw a big hissy fit, threatening to cause hurt and heartache whenever he doesn't get his way. It really shows his total lack of empathy and compassion for others. Even when his grandfather was gravely ill, he more than happily sat through interviews full of lies, and he didn't care. He was aware that his grandmother was in pain, she was grieving, and he didn't care. He knew how heartbroken his own father would be due to his false allegations, and guess what? Again, he didn't care. Harry was blessed to grow up surrounded by a close and loving family, but then what did he do? He moved to another country, so his own children won't get to experience that closeness and all their traditions that he grew up with, and he doesn't care. He alone is responsible for his actions. There's nobody else to blame. He would be aware that some people believe his wife gets blamed for how he is. That's just the coward in him. He's not man enough to own up to his own behavior. While she definitely has her own faults, Meghan isn't the one responsible. Her idiot prince is totally accountable for his own behavior, for turning his back on his family, and for the nasty lies that he likes to spew. He's humiliated himself in front of the whole world. He's burned bridges with his family. His family no longer trusts him. And who does he have to blame but himself? He alone allowed it all, and he is happily complicit. He ruined all of this all by himself. Looking back, Harry never wanted really to be in the limelight. His heart was always in Africa. If he had truly followed his heart, he would have moved to Botswana. He could have had a truly private life on a ranch far away from the public gaze. But instead, what has he done? He's ended up in the worst of both worlds. He's away from his family, but he's still very much in the limelight. He's messed up big time, and I think he's angry because he's not really happy. And what do we tend to do when we're angry? We tend to take it out on the people closest to us. While it's true that we do tend to vent to those closest, we as mature, middle-aged adults don't throw tantrums and pack up the whole family to move to a new country, which is okay, but not telling all of those dirty lies, knowing what harm they'll cause, and telling them to the world. Let's not forget, those lies were sold for millions of dollars. And therein lies the difference. And anyway, if Africa held such a special place in Harry's heart like he professed, that's where he would be. But let's think about it. He can't make the big bucks there now, can he? If you think about it, it's really sad that he's done so much good for most of his life, and look at him now. He's fallen quite far, and it's all his own doing. Harry is a grown man. No one has forced him to do anything. He may have been easily influenced by other people, but as an adult with plenty of life experience, he is responsible for himself. He's ruined his own life, and he's just too dense to see it. As we talked about in some previous videos, Prince Harry is obviously very upset with Prince Charles for not bankrolling him anymore. This has led to him really showing how immature he is to the world, and he shows his lack of compassion for anyone but himself. He was quite happy to just sit there and let his wife spew lies in the Oprah interview because they were both incandescently cross about not being given paid security. So according to Meghan, it's an inherited risk and therefore it ought to be paid for by the British taxpayers. That's why they won't show their children. It's payback to the public for not funding them. As they don't benefit financially, the public has no right to see the kids. Archie and Lilibet are nothing but a pair of bargaining tools. For the Sussex couple, it's all about money. It always has been, and it always will be. If Prince Charles agreed to start funding them again, I'm sure they would change their tune immediately. Perhaps he does support them still, but not to the extent that they want, as many second sons are funded by their father's estates. And does anyone else think it's pretty odd how Meghan raised the specter of racism against her son's skin color, but not her own? Who would even mention that if it was going to hurt your son's feelings in the future? Why would you try to put a wedge between him and his British family unless it was some blackmailing tactic to release money for security? That accusation was vile. It was intended to hurt, and it was just revenge for not giving them an allowance. Meghan and Harry only value money, and they will stop at nothing for financial gain as long as it lines their pockets. All of that being said, to some extent, I definitely think Meghan did contribute to Harry's downfall. I knew about Harry's past antics when he was younger, and I also knew that he had some mental health struggles. But to tell you the truth, I never thought he'd sink this low. And by this, I mean these narcissistic traits that we're starting to see. I am aware that narcissism is a spectrum. It's a gray area, and narcissistic traits can vary. It looks to me like Harry has traveled further down that spectrum because now I can see more and more toxic traits, like he has no understanding or feeling for other people. Correct me if I'm wrong, but I didn't think he was like this pre-Meghan. As I understand it, many people have some narcissistic traits. For example, maybe they like to be top dog but aren't, and most of us can accept that we're good in some respects but average in others. I'll tell you what, I do believe that floozy did her homework and she knew all about Harry's vulnerabilities. So instead of helping him, she just took advantage of them in order to further her agenda. Now she is a full-blown narcissist and she's just damaged him further. For example, Harry was likely pretty egotistical. Let's say he was having an argument with someone and he was right to a certain point, but if you could prove him wrong or show him that proof, likely he would have accepted that he was wrong and changed his mind. His narcissistic traits were pretty strong, but they weren't so rigid or inflexible that he couldn't adapt to any situation. And then enters Meghan into his life, someone who is totally self-absorbed and is incapable of accepting the reality she finds herself in. She just damages and destroys Harry's personality further. Meghan believes that her feelings are her truth and therefore the facts, and she cannot accept things as they are. For example, she didn't marry the firstborn, so she won't be queen. She's just toxic and she's obsessive, and he's become exactly the same. So maybe Harry hadn't completely healed and moved on from his mother's death, but is Meghan guilty of harping on that point to use it to her advantage by constantly poking the bear until he's become stuck in a loop of what I call Meghan-think? Lying, immature coping strategies, creating a false sense of self and a victim that seeks endless sympathy. They feel so powerful and so immune to any consequences of their behavior. I think it would be a good idea now for the British royal family to decide how to handle this situation, because I recognize that they pose a real threat. The monarchy needs to figure out how to dodge the possibility of further damage from these two malignant people. Knowing this is key to discerning what can be managed and what needs to be undoubtedly shunned. In all honesty, if a person is born not very intelligent, it's really not his fault. He really should have just parted from his birth family as soon as he realized that it made him unhappy and he wanted to lead an ordinary life, as he says, and not be burdened by royal existence. It would have been an ideal opportunity in this case to have married Chelsea and move into oblivion with a woman who truly loved him. In this video, we are finally seeing the real Harry. He and that wife of his are truly a toxic mixture of venom, and they feed off of each other. They're like a couple of genies that have been let out of their bottle, and they're not going to return for either love or money. I can't imagine that they have a lot more to say regarding the royal family, but whatever they do say, it'll fall on deaf ears, I am sure. Ever since Harry met Meghan, we're seeing a different side of him. From the cute kid who stuck his tongue out, to a guy who likes to party and get drunk, to now a grown man who acts like a damn fool. And now an angry and bitter man who trashes his family and doesn't care about them, especially his dying grandfather and his poor aging grandmother. And you, what do you think about Harry? Please tell me what you think about him and Meghan. Don't forget to like and share my video with anyone who needs it anytime you want. And please support us more and more by subscribing to the new version of Kate Middleton and the Queen News channel. Again, thank you so much for watching. Goodbye, and we'll see you tonight.